Well, as you could hear, we're going to be talking about a very important subject, which is cybersecurity. Just a few words. You know, I'm Paula J, which is pretty complex last name, as you can see. But in general, I've been always playing and dealing with cybersecurity. This is my job, this is my passion, this is my life. And the company CQURE that I established at the very beginning was just for one person, and this was myself. And right now, you can hear that we have grown a little bit, which kind of shows that cybersecurity is a very important subject. That's why today we're going to be talking about attacks of the industry. And I would like to show you different types of aspects why and where cybersecurity has been important. These different types of attacks are also quite interesting because this is pretty much something that every single time our team gets to the customer infrastructure, we are seeing the same type of problems, and we are a little bit disappointed at some point, and this is in general worth talking about. So whenever we are thinking, of course, about our concept of the cybersecurity, what is absolutely important to have a look at is security awareness that we have in the organization. And even though that subject might be a little boring because we could hear it for the past 10 years, that awareness in cybersecurity is something that we should definitely pay attention to, though I would like to tell you a little bit of a story of what basically I do and how cybersecurity impacted that particular organization. So the story goes like this. In our team, as maybe you can imagine as well, there are two people doing social engineering projects. It's one of my colleagues and it's myself. And I will be absolutely open with you, and you will see that also I'm personally a little ironic person. The reason why I'm doing social engineering is reason number one, because I'm a female. And if you look around yourself, how many females do we have? We do have some, and that's awesome. And this is really a privilege to be working in IT from that kind of a gender perspective. Don't get me wrong, I'm just going to be sincere. Yeah? So second, I'm blonde, and that also helps. It fills up this little bit of an innocent look, kind of cute, you know, like normally I wear black at work, but when I do the social engineering part, I actually do this nice white flowery shirt to be like kind of cute little blonde thing, yeah. So, and number three is I really like to talk. I really like to talk to everybody. I really like to observe micro-expressions. And that is something that is really helping to perform a good social engineering project. So the story goes like this. I'm at the customer side, well, before the customer side, so they have an entrance from the street level. And my job is to get access to that particular building and eventually steal some data, steal some files, and then leave. Yeah? So this is the first opening of the project. So what am I doing? I'm standing in front of the building, and what I see is the announcement that that customer is actually on the 8th floor. And I know that they're spread across 3 floors, floor number 6, 7, and 8. But the other ones are not announced, because on the floor number 8, you can find a reception. So I have a bunch of possibilities to enter that building. Yeah? So I can use my card, which I don't have, and the door opens. I can put technically a pin on the pad, which I don't have, and I can call them, and there's this big bulby kind of camera, so they're gonna see me, which is really not, like each of these options is completely not fitting the concept. So what I did, and we do it every day, I stick to someone's back, and I just went through the door. Yeah, we call it tailgating. So this is easy. This person like turned back. I played stupid. Yeah, social engineering. Ethics is gone. I'm sorry. So basically, there was actually a very nice guy. He was like turning back. I was like, yeah. So you know, the blonde kind of like stereotype again, filling up. Again, I said I would be sincere with you. So at some point, I'm in the elevators area, and we've got 2 elevators in this building, elevator A and B. And you've got this like path inside or in between where you are able to press the floor number. So you can press the floor inside the elevator, only outside. Yeah? So I don't pretty much have a card to go upstairs. So what I'm doing again, and again, another stereotype, which is really lovely working in social engineering, it's a matter of perception. So I took my bag and again, females, they do have this kind of stereotype of having like bottomless bags, you know what I mean? Like many keys, phones, like whatever, screwdrivers, anything you can pretty much put inside. I'm like digging in and I'm looking concerned and on my face too because, oh my gosh, where is my card? Yes, that kind of a look. So I'm standing over there in front of the elevator and there's this guy. He's actually CQURE, quite handsome, and don't get me wrong, I got a husband, but who cares, it's my job. So I was very happy about that. And long story short, door opens. This guy, I could see that he presses floor number 6. So he gets to the back side of the, he actually gets to the elevator, and I get to the back side of the elevator. So when the door opens, I'm like, and I'm immediately in the back. And it's a question to you guys, scream out, shout out, why did I do that? What do you think? Put yourself in the role. Why do I actually jump to the back side of the elevator with this guy? What do you think? Be the social engineer. Some suggestions? Or you're not awake yet? Oh yeah, I can hear it, yeah? So thank you for this. So he cannot recognize me, yeah? So this could be an option, so I can hide behind his back. Good point. Yeah, this is exactly what we are getting to. Any other suggestions? So I can tailgate him again. Thank you so much. So we've got 2 very nice stories, yeah? So what did I do? So here's the thing. We got, the door is, of course, closing, and thanks for saying this. We are in this conversation. And then I'm starting it and I say, hi, how are you doing? And you know, like I can lower my voice to this kind of like a nice sounding, like, yeah, again, social engineering part. So, hi, how is it going? Nice smiley. And he's like, nice to see you. I'm fine, how are you? And I said a magic word, nice to see you again. And when you say again to someone, this is almost like motivating the other person to find out in their head, like, again, that was actually the past time. We've seen each other before. I don't recognize it, so he's kind of like looking for it in a party, in the office, where was it, yeah? So I can see he's doing this. This kind of clockworks are there working. He's focusing for the moment. His muscles are a little tight. And then basically he says, nice to see you again too. So I'm thinking, liar. Because we've never seen each other. But then he wanted to show off a little bit, yeah? So that game is on. So I've got check, check, check. And then I'm saying, okay, when he replied that to show off, I'm saying, nice perfumes, you smell very well. And he's like, do you think so? I'm like, I think so, yeah? End of story, yeah? So we're getting to the 6th floor, and that door is opening, and I did exactly what you said. Yes, so what he did, he straightened his back, like, you know, kind of manly approach, and he lowered his voice again and he said, "Deet, the door's opening, ladies first." So I'm like, thank you so much, maybe see you on a lunch or somewhere in the office, click, you know, like somewhere. He's like, sure, blah, 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 boring. I'm getting to the computers area, yeah? So this is a financial company. And I'm at the traders floor. And basically, traders, if you were in a little bit in the finance world, it's a very intensively working environment as well. So what they did, they have heard that their company said, hey, we do care about your security. We do care about cybersecurity and about anything that is security related with our company. That's why we created even a better policies for you so that your desktop is going to be locked after 5 minutes of the inactivity. This is such a fake sense of security because in 5 minutes you can get it into someone's computer, basically dump whatever files you want to dump, credentials you want to dump, depending on the security measures, and leave and have still like 3 minutes for coffee, right? So basically, whenever they did finish whatever they were doing, they literally stood up and they went out for lunch with the sense that their desktop is going to be locked, so they're kind of okay. So what I did, I squeezed in, and I'm sitting at one of the guys' desk, and I copied whatever I was supposed to copy, and then nobody really pays attention. And I'm like, that's kind of awkward, because nobody has seen me before. So I decided to provoke. And that's really a bit of my character too. So I was like, okay, let's do a little bit of yoing. And I did like this. Yeah? So kind of rude, yeah? So people were like checking out, but then nobody really said, hey, what are you doing over here? Why you're sitting at this some person's desk, etc. So I decided to poke on people. And I was like, hey, you over there in the red blouse, how is it going? And then they were like, oh, we're fine. Yeah, how are you? Okay, fine. But then again, nobody really questioned my activity over there. I was wondering, what am I supposed to do so that they actually kick me out of the office because they don't recognize me? So this is really a matter of perception. What's the perception of the hacker? What's the perception of our workplace? And in cybersecurity, in awareness, there's always one thing that we should pay attention to, and that is our context. So where do we work in? What our environment looks like? What are the people that we work with? And so on, because hacker can be literally anybody, and our data does not necessarily needs to be stolen because it's protected by the whatever Azure Information Protection. Nobody cares about that. We could, of course, if it was the case, then we couldn't technically get the data. But at some point, this is not always, and we all know that, the case at different types of organizations. So this is basically the awareness, behavior, and culture that are mixed together. Awareness, because we know what to expect. Behavior, because we know how to act. And culture, because this is in general in our hearts and minds in the particular organization. Just to move forward to the technical demonstration, I would like to tell you a little bit of a story which is very much related with that culture or lack of culture in cybersecurity in a certain organization. Approximately a month ago, I was doing a pen test. So this was a technical pen test related with a little bit of social engineering, probably the most awkward pen test that I ever had in my life, because I was supposed to steal something from the furniture warehouse. This was the order, by the way, from our customer. I'm like, okay, great. What am I supposed to steal from the warehouse? A couch or a closet and walk away with it or something? But yeah, almost there. So basically, there's this furniture warehouse that I'm getting into, and my job was to grab something. Okay, fine, but first I have to get in. So what did I do? Again, perception, context, people around me. So what I did, I took an iPad. I opened on the iPad Excel spreadsheet, you know, to look smart. You see Excel, that means I'm smart. So this is basically the case. And there is this security guard. So I'm very confident in general. So I'm coming in with the Excel open. And I said, hey, how is it going? Nice to see you again. He's motivated. OK, when was the last time? Maybe there was. She's so convincing. So maybe he actually saw me somewhere. And he says, first, straight to the point, where's your pass? And I said, I don't need one. And he said, oh, OK. And I'm like, can't be that easy. Yeah. So basically, you had a little bit of conversation, because I was like, no, I mean, I cannot leave this poor guy over here this way. Let's at least have a little bit of a conversation. Let him be suspicious, yeah? And I said, hey, well, I'm optimizing this like stock over there, this warehouse. It's good that your company is doing this, and so on. Finally, you're going to have a little bit less work, you know, like we all like to have a weekend and so on. And there was this mutual understanding, but he was absolutely no suspicious at all. He was such a cute guy. So I just get in, and I was like, okay, what am I supposed to grab from this warehouse? And I was searching for it, just for you, a little bit of an inside story. And I saw the smallest thing, it was a carpet, and I took a carpet. And I would like walk away with a carpet on my arm through this window that was there by the security. I waved to this guy and I said, have a good day. And he said, have a good day. And then I was like, this is the craziest pen test ever. I'm ending up with a carpet in my hand, no problems to get in. And at some point, everybody is smiling, yes? So this was basically a little bit of a summary from the very beginning before we get into the whole context. So summing up, awareness comes with experience, because we know how the threat may look like. Behavior comes with awareness, so we know how to act because we understand the situation. We've been there, we've seen it. Someone introduced these examples to us. We know the context. And at the end, organizations are responsible for that, because how poor guys working in HR, marketing, sales, name it, are supposed to be responsible for cybersecurity. They're not. In general, they are responsible for their workplace, but not about knowledge for cybersecurity. I'm always saying one thing: links are designed to be clicked, so let them click. But at some point, we need to make sure that when they click, nothing is going to happen. And these things, they change a little bit. And I'm in cybersecurity for the past 15, 14 years, and our company is 10 years old, so I've been very much observing the market of what has been happening. And that time, 10 years ago, when we were choosing our firewall, antivirus solutions, and so on, it has been there, and we were all there, and once we chosen our firewalls, we were like, okay, that works fine, so we've got a security in place, check. Then for the next 5 years, there was a really funny situation in the companies going, because we all thought that we are all set. This was the most beautiful time in our company, by the way. Yes, same mistakes, same errors, easy jobs. Someone just need to understand that cybersecurity is important, and companies started. Now, from 5 years ago, what happened is ransomware came to the field. And then it started to encrypt data. And then people were like, oh, information actually has a value. Time to start to implement something that's going to support ourselves with information. That's why, by the way, security from whatever we have seen and remembered, so easy firewall, antivirus, whatever proxy, changed to something like this. So this is what we are dealing with right now, and that's not easy, and we all know that. That's why we've got lots of different types of security challenges in place, and if you're wondering what is this about, this is a Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture. If you don't see anything on the slide, that's the point. Because in general, there's like so many different types of things out there that we really were not in the need of having them in the past. Now we're like, oh, I need something to be discovering attacks when they happen in my network. Or really, why it wasn't the case before? What has changed over here? Nothing. We still process know-how. Now it's just that know-how is more important? Not necessarily. So in general, the need of information has grown, and this is really the time that we are living in. Now the good news is that if you learn that, and we've got on Office 365, ATP part, and so on. So all the security parts of the products that you are interested in are becoming so important now. Now, the funky part is that Financial Times said that by 2019, so just around the corner, we're going to need in the market 6 million cybersecurity professionals. But with the current development that we have, we're going to have from 4 to 5 million. And you know what? This is what I see as well, and I bet that this is what you see as well too. We've got a gap. We've got a 1.5 million people gap, or in general, a gap. So when we want to, for example, hire someone in our team, and I will be super sincere with you, it's a problem, because we don't see the skill set being in place. So someone could be, oh, I want to do cybersecurity. That's awesome. It's definitely time to start. But that means if you are in a hiring position, that you need to invest in that person, and 6 months later, this person is going to be ready to do a little bit of a cybersecurity job. That's what we are saying one thing. The time for cybersecurity is literally now. And whenever we are thinking about the needs, I can tell you as well, because I have my adventures with different CISOs, and I do have conversations with them, because I really want to understand where the problem is. In cybersecurity, we have no standards. We have different types of regulations. We have NIST, we have CIFT, we have ISACA, we have COBIT as a different types of standards. We have plenty of those, but this is all theory, while every organization is having different types of cybersecurity problems, different dependencies, different systems. So how could we actually develop a standard? We can a little bit, but in general, what is my point over here is that the need of cybersecurity skill set is definitely in place. And when we have a look at another statistic by not really long time ago published in Forbes by Cybersecurity Ventures, we are saying that we've got, there's going to be by 2021, 3.5 million cybersecurity jobs openings. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome, because it means that in cybersecurity, if we start to learn now, there's going to be definitely a job. And in IT, we don't really complain of lack of activities, but in cybersecurity especially, we don't. That's why today we are discussing different types of attacks of the industry to understand first what the problem is, how can we patch it, how can we mitigate it, and eventually grow in cybersecurity for or within our organizations. So whenever we are thinking about cybersecurity attacks, so the ones that are famous, I decided to divide them into 4 different types of scopes. So secured identities, information protection, threat resistance, and secure devices. And within these 4 scopes, I would like to show you different types of attacks that we are in general dealing with. And starting with, of course, secured identities. So let's do that. So whenever we are thinking, of course, about the most successful attack right now and the path for the attack right now, then I'm going to be a little bit straightforward. This is a very famous attack. Some of you might be like, oh, go, not again, that type of attack. But let me start with the story, and then attack is just one of the options. But it is actually indeed one of the most successful attacks right now. So we've got a user. Yeah, and user got some kind of an email, and in general, this is really the path that I can see by our customers. How do they suffer when the malware is getting into the environment or when the attack is happening? And in general, user is alerted to the certain type of a site, and then this is a little bit of a shortcut, you must admit, because what can happen? User click on a link, browser might be vulnerable, user click on a link, user might run some piece of code. Yeah, so these are the activities that we are looking forward here. And then device is infected. Well, if the device could be infected. So that means there is no code execution prevention, there is no exploit guard in Windows 10. I'm not really saying that we are like not up to date with the antivirus, because who cares about the antivirus? In 2014, one of the CXOs from Symantec, they said antivirus is dead. And of course, he said a couple of other things, but this was like a punchline. And that's a bit of a truth. To write something that is actually bypassing antivirus, it's so easy. Yeah? And why I'm saying this is because in our team, we actually developed a know-how to bypass antivirus solutions, but not the ones that are relying on machine learning. That's why, for example, on Microsoft side, you've got Windows Defender ATP. And that's a little bit different story. It's a 3rd generation of the solutions that are preventing that kind of activities. And at the end, so this is a bit of a standard organization's configuration. We've got someone who logs on, and then we've got identity stolen. Now, we could be thinking, hey, what about credential guard in Windows 10? So we've got that. So we technically cannot extract credentials from the memory of the operating system because we do have a credential guard. Well, there's a little bit of a problem. Credential guard is not everything. That's why when we think security, we definitely need to think holistically. And let me show you a bit of an example that is related with that, which actually shows the concept of what we are referring to. First of all, and this is a bit of a demonstration, if you don't mind. What we're going to do is the following. We've got over here a virtual machine. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to get into Kiwi, and then I'm going to get into Kiwi PFX. And what is the next story? Of course, I'm going to run the Mimikatz that you might be familiar with. This is actually Mimikatz Secure Edition, and that means that that particular Mimikatz, it's not recognized by antivirus. We actually wrap it in a way that it's just not. Though actually Windows Defender ATP is the only one that recognizes it. Nothing really pro Microsoft, it's just a fact. And what we're going to do, privilege debug. So this is the first thing. Secure LSA, logon, passwords is the second thing. And of course, we can guess, so this is the first part of my demonstration, that we have here different types of credentials being in a memory. So this is the system without a credential guard. That's why credential guard came to place. Yeah? So that's why, in general, in Windows 10, we've got a mitigation against that, which we've been fighting with for the past 20 years. Yeah? So this is awesome. So when you do that in Windows 10, you will not have credentials. But there's one thing to have a look at. If we run Process Hacker, and I'm going to show this maybe even on a separate box, then we've got over here processes sorted. And you can see over here that I've got one process, which is called font driver host, whatever, running on the user UMFD1. Yeah, what's the in general password for that particular user? Who cares? Right? So what we can do, we can use a privilege in operating system, which is called impersonate a client after authentication. This word client is a little awkward because it refers to a user, computer, and service. And what we can do miscellaneous, we can do run as this user, And then here we can just say, OK, for the command prompt. And what happens is that I've got this in front of my eyes. So this one is opened. And as you can see, I have a process running as this user. So you don't need to put the password. It's a very powerful privilege. So not only credential guard matters in operating system, because we could be thinking, oh, this is something that will prevent identities from being stolen. No, it will not if we don't have a holistic approach to the platform security. Yeah? So this is in general what we are dealing with right now. We've got customers that are rolling out Windows 10 with credential guards, and that's awesome, but at the same time, they're not managing the privilege access. And that is really what is a bit of a problem. Okay, guys, so whenever we are thinking, of course, about that, this is what I wanted to tell you. Of course, next from that, on the top of that, what we could have is a problem with the attacks like pass the hash, which, believe it or not, there's still a big of a deal at the company side. I don't remember when was the last time that I did not actually use the pass the hash when I was performing the pen test. So that's why we call it an attack of the industry, because it is a bit of a problem, yeah? Because it is still something that we are dealing with at the customer side in order to well, attack certain type of organization. And how does it work? It works in a very, very easy way. So, and again, let's be not romantic over here, pass the hash requires, in general, a debug privilege. And debug privilege is actually given by default to administrators group, so to the local administrators group, and to the local system. So any kind of privilege access over here definitely comes to place. Now, funky part is that, and I will share with you a bunch of stories over here, we could be thinking, well, yeah, but then we don't really provide users an administrative access, and that's awesome. Let me give you a little bit of example of one of the ways of how I managed to get access to the environment before we actually move forward. So you can imagine, I'm sure you know, each of us knows that kind of a guy. So this is like a factory environment. So quite a little dirty, kind of like on the side of the city and so on. There is this guy, and he was administering this infrastructure for the past like 20 years. So this infrastructure was almost like his child, like, you know, yes? So when I appeared over there, it's almost like me hurting his child. Nobody wants his child being hurt, yes? So there was this very, very like strange relationship in between us. At the end, technically making him at some point to be not trusting me. And what was the situation is that I managed to get access to his infrastructure. And this was actually through an insecure SQL server, so SA account with a simple password, so I managed to brute force it. And then SQL server was installed on the local system account, so I managed to enable sort procedure, xpcmd shell, I'm getting in, I'm grabbing the administrator's hash, I'm submitting that for cracking, and then it appears that that password is crackable in quite a fast way. So, at the same time when I was doing this, he was like every single hour, he was just like by the door, he's like, are you in yet? Are you in yet? Are you in? I was like, this is really annoying, yes? And I was like, no, no, no. But once when he came in, I said, yes. You should see his face. Like, literally like tears, yeah? He was like so hurt. And he's like, oh no. And it's like, heads down, like micro expressions, like he was really hurt. And I was like, okay, I will not be brutal here, but let's play a little game. And he asked me, okay, so who are you? Where are you in the infrastructure? And I said, well, listen, I'm your administrator now. And he said, okay, really, what's the password? And I managed to get access to the local administrator's account, but it's a language that I use. I'm an administrator. And I said the password. And he's like, oh no, so you are a domain admin. And I'm like, what? You just revealed that you are using the same passwords for the local admin and the domain admin. Well, thank you for that, yes? So he was like, at the dinner, he was like so down. But in general, that type of, this has never happened to me before, but that type of attacks, even though the infrastructure, and he was doing a really good job in what he was doing, these attacks are so common, they still happen, and they are still not mitigated. Okay, so what's the point? How does it work? Well, long story short, what we need to do is to get into psexec with the -s, -i, -d, cmd.exe, And what's going to happen, we have over here the system console. And one of the things that we will need to do is to get into CQ dump version 2 some dump in order to be able to extract hashes for that particular user. So we can see over here that that particular hash or anti-hash is in a SAM database, and that passkey hash, by the way, can be done in 2 possible ways. It could be done on the local account, and we've got an easy securing method for that because it's Labs, a local admin password solution from Microsoft, which is free at the same time. But the second approach to that is that we could also do it on a domain account. So there are so many ways how we could escalate and play with this attack and shape it. So what we're going to do over here? Well, basically, what we will move forward with is the KEYNOTE Secure Edition, one of the Mimikatz is as well here. So again, Secure Edition of the Mimikatz, Privilege Debug. Here we go. And then we're going to do CQURE LSA, passkey hash, user, administrator, then domain, localhost, and then NTLM, and then of course we specify our hash over here. Yeah? So this is, everything is live. Now we've got a process that is with the administrator's token. Funny part is that if we do who am I, it doesn't look like, because that CMD is not reading that information from the token, but from the profile. That's why we've got a little bit of confusion here, but that's okay. Actually here we could even go quite simple. We could do ps-exec into a single sign-on capability to one of our servers here, and host name, we've got a server, and who am I, we've got administrator. So this is super easy. It's so easy. It's working all the time in every single organization. It could be also working on the or across the domain accounts. Now, there's one guy that is guilty for that, wdigest DLL. This is an authentication DLL that allows us actually to authenticate with the hash. Not to mention the fact that we could run an executable that we don't know. So these are the things that we've knew for the past 10 years. So this is basically what we call an attack of an industry, because this is just repeatable happening. Okay, so whenever we are thinking, of course, about some other approaches, let's have a look at a very interesting approach, which is related with information protection. So how do we configure our apps? How do we configure the communication in between different types of resources so that at the end, everything works fine? And what am I referring to over here? It's simply speaking the misconfiguration or configuration of a SQL server. So different all protocols and their default settings. So I'm talking here about the TDS, tabular data stream, the communication protocol in between SQL server and the apps, or putting this in a different frame, it's a SQL server that hasn't been installed by database security guy or girl. So this is basically the situation, and you are able, while you are in the network, perform the, again, attack of the industry, sniffing and spoofing of the network traffic, which is possible, and then change the communication in between the server and the client on the fly. And this is really what I would like to show you. This is a very, very short demonstration, but at the same time quite picturesque. So what I will do, we're going to get simply into our Linux box. And I have over here set up a Kali Linux, which, well, system doesn't really matter, but with one thing, and that is SQL inject tool. So we've got here a query that we are able to sniff running in a clear text, and we are here replacing, so select customer ID, company name, contact name, and so on from customers with the -i, so input over here, create login hacker with password 1. So we're gonna hound for that. How do we know how this query looks like? Because we sniffed the network. You can perform the ERP poisoning attacks. We've got even a tool for that, which is freely available for download from our blog, which works on Windows, where you just launch it. Basically, you start to do the ERP poisoning, and your switches get into the port opening mode, and again, depending on the configuration, allow you to sniff of any other ports communication in between different types of hosts. So, long story short, what's the flavor here? The flavor is that in this particular environment, I've got another part of the block, and that is this part here. And that's our SQL server, where if we do have a look at the details, we are able to see here that that particular SQL Server, we've got here logins list, and within this logins list, we don't have anything that is called hacker or anything like that. And if we do select this query, and then we do execute, then basically this is something that gives us, simply speaking, an output from the regular database. Okay, so it's all good. Now, whenever we have a look at the details of the Linux box underneath, well, we start performing the sniffing and spoofing, so the poisoning attack underneath. Here we go. This is good. So then what we're going to do on the SQL Server side, we're going to execute that query again. And this time it says command completed successfully. Why like that? Because that communication was running in a clear text. Don't get me wrong, I've never seen in the organization SQL done well. And maybe that sounds a little bit like a challenge, but it's so, again, repeatable. Because there's always some SQL somewhere communicating with some application somewhere that is, simply speaking, misconfigured. Let's have a look at the logins, if you don't mind. And as you see, and I'm selecting this one in blue, we've got over here login hacker created just because there was someone in the capability of sniffing and spoofing the network. Easy, right? It costs you nothing to do that. So again, case of our customer, quite interesting. There was a customer in investment area, and they had an application that they built up. It's a homegrown app, which was literally behaving like this. I could see all the different types of customer data, finance-related data, anything really that I could change on the fly. So that's a bit of a challenge always. And the solutions that we use, they pretty much always require some database server underneath. Question is it installed well? And what kind of sniffing capabilities do we have in our infrastructures? Okay, so this is basically a little bit about information protection. We could think documents, we could think encryption, etc. But sometimes we have to go back to basics and look at what's going on in our network, because that could be the problem. Yeah, we could be playing with the encrypted documents, but at the same time, that could be a little bit more important problem out there. Okay, interesting so far? Okay, good. Silence, that's very motivating, I might tell you. Okay, yeah, thanks for that. Okay, anyway, let's move forward. I want to show you something exciting. And that is the threat resistance, yeah? So the step number 3. And that is actually one of my favorite demonstrations. And the reason why it's like this is because it's related with something that we all have. And in our customers, for example, customer list, for example, just to be absolutely sincere, we have only a couple of customers that implemented that kind of a protection. So what are we talking about? Smb signing. So do we do that? So we've got an Smb traffic that is, in general, just used, because this is how Windows communicates with different types of services. And the question is, can we change this traffic on the fly? Yes, and that's what we've been talking about. Now, let's escalate it a little bit more. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually do the following attack. And this is, as I mentioned, to me, at least quite exciting, because over here, I have a preset attack, which is actually quite easy to preset, and we're gonna work on it together so that you guys can do exactly the same thing at home. And basically, we've got over here two components. First of all, how that traffic is gonna look like, how the attack is gonna look like. We've got a client, regular, whatever, Windows client. And that client is browsing a file server. So it's browsing the file server by the IP address or by the short name. So // whatever. And just this. And what is happening and triggered by that, so short name and IP address, it's NTLM version 2 authentication. There's nothing bad directly in it, but in general, the protocol and the way how it's handled has a bunch of issues. Kerberos too, it's another story, but we can mitigate that. But the problem is that companies don't. So here is the communication, client and server, the file server, and the client says, hey, I want to communicate to get some files. So server says, yes, but you need to authenticate first. So I'm going to send you this data blob. Please encrypt it with your user's password's hash, in short words, and then send it back to me in that way. And I do know what's your hash, so I'm going to do the same and compare the result. And then if it's the same, I'm going to authenticate you. So what the client does, client takes this blob, and client encrypts it with the user's password's hash, and then sends it back. Server says, OK, that looks pretty much the same of what I have over here, so you are authenticated. And this is how the session is established. Again, in the short words, this response that the client sends, we are able to sniff it. So when we take this response, we are able to take this response and forward it, that's why it's called Smb relay as an attack, and forward it to some victim and authenticate with that in the other victim's computer. And that is not really a vulnerability. I would call it just a misconfiguration. And that misconfiguration is no Smb signing. So let's see what we can do. So here, I've got Python script, Smb relay XPY, and this one is attacking our victim, which is 10.10.10.250, and on the execution, so -e, we are running the CQ shell 104a.exe. This is the shell that we have generated with our techniques of reflection, etc., which we have designed to bypass all the known antivirus solutions in the market. Again, not the ones that are relying on the machine learning, because that would be quite tough. But in general, this is the deal. So what we're going to do here, first of all, I'm going to execute that particular relay script. And here, I would like to configure the attack. And this attack works like this. First of all, I will need to use exploit multi handler. Here we go, enter. And then we're going to do set payload. And then we're going to do Windows. And then we're going to specify meterpreter. And then we're going to specify reverse _ TCP, all good. And then we're going to do set lhost, because this is going to be my IP address, 10.10.10.99. And then we're all set. So this attack, it's like 3-liner attack. I'm starting my job at the customer side with that, because it's so easy to get in. Let me show you how and why. So we're going to do exploit. Now, what's going to happen? So here, we're interested in what's happening here. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to do a bit of a full screen. And first, let me show you the victim. Of course, we cannot see normally the victim, but this time we can. So what will be our victim's case? Here, we're going to be attacking SVC host with the process ID 648. And why this one? I'll show you, because we're going to see it. We're going to see that, oh, there is this process ID, I want it. Yeah? So this is going to be our victim over here. So technically, I don't need this guy anymore. I can just move it to my side, whatever, minimize it, 648. And over here, what we're going to do from the other host on my side as well, I'm going to communicate with the file server by leveraging IP address. That's it. NTL and version 2 authentication at its charm. So let's do it. We got it. Here, we've got a session opened. As you see, I do PS for process listing. I find the process on the victim, and I do migrate 648. Migrate, very good. So if we're going to be lucky, it's going to happen for the first time. We have approximately 15 seconds. Then we do shell, and then we do who am I, and then we are local system on that host. How long does it take? This. Now, funny part, I know it's going to sound bad in the winter, but sorry about this story, but we decided with our team, by the way, one day that we're going to do projects in Caribbean. That was like our ambition. And that worked out. So we were like, yay, we're going to Bahamas for the project, and that was awesome. We checked the calendars, and I'm the CEO of the company, so I cannot say, like, I want to go to Bahamas. I need to let this, 39 people go first. Before I go, this is horrible, I will tell you. But then I was like, I hope that there's going to be this week, and it's going to be for me, yes? And then, bang, I'm coming to Bahamas. I'm at the customer side, by the way. And then I set up this attack, as you can see. So basically, I'm waiting, and there's like nothing going on in the network, nothing. No authentication, nowhere, like nothing. Yes, this is unusual. Normally, you've got it like 5 minutes, 15 minutes, yeah? And I was wondering why, and until the lunchtime, there was like literally nothing. I was getting my cheeks red because I was so excited, restarting my computer, resetting my whole environment. Imagine that on Monday, nobody was working until lunchtime because they were in a conference room eating donuts. And even admins, they were not checking for their logs. They was like, oh, how was your weekend? How was your dog? How was the beach? And I was like, wow, this is life. And I was stressing out in the room for getting the relays. Okay, so here, what we can see on the other side is that there was a code executing. This is the backside of the attack, where we are able to see that authentication responses and challenges and responses. And this is the moment where we were actually running something on someone's computer. Yeah. So again, how we could secure from that: exploit guard, code execution prevention, and of course, Smb signing as one of the major parts over here. Okay, so the last attack that I've got for you is actually, in my opinion, the most exciting, because it's related with the secure devices. So what kind of things we can actually run? What kind of solutions do we use? Do we trust them? Do we know how to break them, etc.? So what do we mean by this? We mean by this one thing. If the code is digitally signed, it doesn't mean it's secure, and we all know that. This is the time we are living in. So here's the thing, and I really like to ask this boring question. Who knows who wrote actually 7-zip? That's my point. And we all use it. Do you like it? Yeah, that's my point too. So we don't know who wrote it. It's digitally signed, awesome, and we all like it. That's like perfect. Yeah? If I would be working for some of the governments, that would be awesome. Yeah? Just saying. And I'm far from that kind of statement over here, but just think about it. If Igor, being an author of 7-zip, one day turns to be a bad guy, which I wish him all the best, he's a great guy, but still, that switch happens, we're all in trouble, because there are millions of computers running that kind of software, and we have examples in a history when signed software was actually bad. So that's exactly my point. What kind of software do we run, and how do we approve it? And I would like to show you a little bit of that, yeah? And that's a bit of a scary story, actually. So that story goes like this. We've got basically over here the following. So I've got a computer of regular user. And I will show you, of course, that this user is regular because we're going to log on as this user, and you will see that in a moment. So this is basically the setup. So this is this guy here. And he's a good guy in our scenario. So, you know, this is what I do. I invent all these accounts when I'm in a hotels traveling. So don't ask too many questions. So basically, we've got here a password, p@ssw0rd, and I'm logging on with this password. Yeah, this is a domain user, not a big deal, of course. But what is my point? What we're going to be discussing right now is the way how we understand secrets in our operating system and the way how we handle them. All right. Now we could be thinking, I have no access to the internet. That's why we've got this one. Let's just get this out of the screen. Good. Okay. Fine. So basically, whenever we are thinking, of course, about that scenario, what I would like to show you is, first of all, something obvious, and then we're going to escalate. Something obvious is Freddy store his password in the browser, right? So this is Chrompass. Chrompass is from Nearsoft. Nearsoft are a very nice app. Again, a bit of another rocket science, because anything that you store, you save, you manage, will be decrypted by you. All right? So what's the first lesson over here? Any other secrets that you have can be also seen by any other apps like that. That's my point. Now we're gonna keep following on this, but what's the message here? Like, why Chrompass, whatever Chrompass is capable of reading information from Chrome? Because it can, because it's a data protection API, and anything that is encrypted as you can be seen by any other app running as you. That's why it requires a super special attention, whatever you run. Do you run apps from portable apps? Yes, no. Do you trust portable apps? So we could be like, kind of not. So think about it, because portable apps can access your secrets. And again, this is the time we're living in. So basically, what I wanted to show you is what are the dependents over here. So these secrets are dependent on what? And let's do it in a practical way. So what I'm going to do right now is the following. I'm going to reboot this box from ISO image of the Windows installation media. And there's one reason for that. And we don't have to do it offline. Of course, BitLocker could protect it. It's just to clear up the picture, to make it absolutely clear. Because what I would like to do, I would like to overwrite cache logon data by some people called cache credentials, which are not credentials, by the way. And then I would like to show you how and why data protection API, so our secrets, are dependent on our passwords hash, but not only that. And we're going to complete it with an ugly picture. So we've got a repair a computer. We're going to repair it. So troubleshoot, advanced options. Let's start advanced command prompt. And just like a little thing, if you don't mind, I will just change the font so that we all can see it, because on offline level, I have no possibility to impact this. Now, what we're going to do? First of all, we're going to get to D, CQ tools. We're going to get into KEYNOTE Secure Edition, and absolutely not bragging about it, but our team has reversed fully cache logon data, so cache credentials, and we have fully, as the first team in the world, reverse engineered data protection API to the bonds. So anything you encrypt, we decrypt, including data protection API NG, which, for example, is used by BitLocker, yeah, for SID protected drives, PFX protected files, ASP.NET Core, that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do here, LSA dump, and then we're going to do cache. And then we're going to override cache logon data, which cache logon data is stored in the registry, by the way. Very not romantic way of storing things. It's actually just like an entry in the registry, that's it. But it's actually very good because it underneath uses a function that is called MSDCC2, which is, by the way, used by KeePass, LastPass, Azure Key Vault, and stuff. So that's not too bad. So we've got a D drive, Windows, and then we're going to do system32, config, system. Okay, and then this is where the boot key is, and Windows system32 config security. This is where the cache logon data is, /kiwi to override cache logon data, enter, and these were the users which had cache logon data in this computer. All right. Now, is it safe to store them? Yes, because the algorithm, it's not reversible, or the result is not reversible. Plus, the algorithm is actually very good, so you can store as many logon data as you want to. That time has changed from the Windows XP, by the way. In Windows XP, it was a little worse, but still not too bad. So don't worry about this part. But what we're going to do here, we're going to log on with that cache logon data, because I would like to show you how that affects our secrets. So this time, we're going to be not connected for both of the interfaces, actually. And I would like to show you that this is actually dependent on our password's strength. So what we got here, we are done. So what we can do, we can reboot this guy, continue, and then we are rebooting, and we're going to log on as Freddy into this box. Not offline anymore, nothing, just a regular logon. Remember, I was using for the domain account password. So p@ssw0d. Now it's going to be a little bit different, and I will explain where this different comes from. So let's try it. And then, of course, we're going to see how we are impacting and protecting our secrets. Anytime where privacy matters, that could be a bit of a deal. So we are logging on with the password. Nope, it doesn't work. So I'm going to change the password into something that is called Mimikatz, domain user, and we're logging on. Yes? So this is in general the violation in security of accountability, right? So we could be like, so why don't we store the cache logon data? If you store them, if you don't store them, you can always create them. So again, not a problem. Let's take this out. So what is next? Next is, of course, we are curious if we are able to see at this particular stage our password. And in general, what's going to be the case is that we should not be able to do that. So we've got a Chrome pass, and then basically we are not able to see that because we are trying to decrypt with our passwords hash the master keys, it's a new term, which are responsible protecting our secrets in Windows. Yeah? If you want to do someone a bad joke, you're supposed to delete this person's master keys. It's actually one of the awesome jokes, I would say, because this person will not be able to get access to its secrets at all forever, which I find funny, by the way, but let's move forward. Okay, so we've got the Chrome pass, and as you see, password is empty, yeah? Now, long story short, whenever we have a look at what is stored in the domain controller's memory, yet another reason to protect it, that basically looks like this. So we're gonna get into tools, and we're gonna get into Data Protection API Toolkit, and I have here a tool that is called CQELSA Secrets Dumper. This is our tool freely available from the blog, etc., which when we specify it with the parameter file, we can specify what we would like to export and where, and let me explain it in a second. We're going to do export.pfx, and that is nothing but a private key that just imported for the example. Password is secure, next. Okay, fine, cert mgr.msc, And that is, in general, the private key that is corresponding to the public key that is in every domain user's profile, the same one. So if you are working in a 25,000 people company, everybody has secrets additionally protected with the public key, one, everybody the same, and this is the key that is really a key to the castle. We called it a golden data protection API key for a reason, yeah? So how can we leverage this particular certificate? Now, you can see that it expired, of course, but who cares? If you created your domain in 2003, it will never be renewed. It will just be like this. Is there something we can do about it? No. Is there something we can say? No, 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 no. The only thing you can do, by the way, is to protect your domain controller more and provide accountability of who is using how your privileged credentials. And that is actually the conclusion that we're going to draw in a moment. So here we've got the password, which is like not visible. Now I'm going to open up the console as a regular user, as you see, and we're going to work on it a little bit. First of all, our secrets are stored in the following place. So cd %updata%. Let's do it. Now here we're going to do start dot. And here we've got Microsoft folder. We can get into protect. And then we've got the seed. And this is the data protection, or these are the data protection API master keys that I was talking about. So deleting those in general. Like, be nice, don't do that. But in general, yeah, it's a bit bad joke. So here, I have actually selected, because in every certain data protection API blob, you've got an identifier of the master key, so this one, that is protecting the secret. So I have selected which one I will need for Chrome, actually, and it's going to be this one. But this one, BK CQURE, it's the public key that I was mentioning about. So let me frame one thing here. Each of these entries here, it's encrypted inside, there are two keys inside, same copies, in two different ways. Way number one, with your user's password's hash, and that's why we couldn't read the secret, because the hash changed. Number two, with our public key of the domain. But that's automatically not working, so we will need to trigger that. So let me show you a bit of a strange and dangerous situation. And we are almost there, and I know that that's not the easiest demo ever, but at the same time, it's actually pretty interesting at the end. So if we do shift right-click for this one, and we're going to do copy as path, then what we're going to do over here is the following. I'm going to get into my toolkit as Freddy, because Freddy can work on this data. Anybody really can right now work on this data. We're going to get into CQ tools, data protection API. And first of all, we're going to generate CQ hash calc, Freddy's passwords hash. So my password is mimikatz, and the hash is going to be like this. So what I'm going to do, then I'm going to use CQ master key AD, just last tool for today. And then I'm going to do file, which file we are working on, which file we are decrypting, this one, how we are decrypting it, PFX, with exported PFX that we have from the DC. Now, the last part, how we are re-encrypting it with the new hash, which is this guy. So let me copy that. And we are all set. Almost all set, because there's one more thing to be done. Here we go. So decrypted and encrypted back again. Now, what we need to do is to replace these guys. So there is this new, let me just sort it by the name, so you will see in a moment. Here we go. So there's this new file created, which is called AD modified. And we're going to technically take this guy and replace with this key. So let's do rename it. Here we go. And at the end, we're going to do good. And yes, we can do that. Are you sure? Yes, yes, yes. And then we're going to take this guy and rename it. And then basically we're going to specify that we should have this file like this. But, very, very last thing, we need to change its attributes to system and hidden. That's why you have S and H at the end. Enter for copying. I'm going to paste it. Enter. Changed. OK, fine. Now let's reveal the secret. We had no password here. If we do F5, the secret comes out. That's a bit dangerous. So in general, that shows one situation over here, that our secrets are as secure as our passwords are, and our secrets are as secure as the privileged access management is. And in general, domain admin in person is. And that's why cybersecurity, it's not only Technology. Because if your domain admin will turn to the bad side, that is exactly what could happen. That's why we are always advising use KeePass, use any kind of a password storage for yourself where the password is here, you've got additional file to protect it, etc. Because we kind of don't know. And I'm not really bragging here about being suspicious to anyone, but that is the possibility. So why don't we just secure ourselves up front? And that's what the security and cybersecurity is about. So couple of reasons for that. Security is both reality and feeling. So if we feel something may happen, act. Yes, if it does not smell right, it's probably not right. Yes, so this is in general the rule in cybersecurity. Not every attacker is that smart. Yeah, so basically, why we're saying this? Because we need to know our security context. We need to know what kind of secrets do we store, what kind of documents do we store. We know that we don't click on these links because Princess of Saudi Arabia is asking us to send us $1 million. It's probably not true. So this kind of situations that we are dealing with, sometimes the language makes a difference. But at the end, of course, security, it's still a human, and I'm not really a fan of saying that human is the weakest part of the security chain, because technologically, when we got a security chain, we're all great in it. We've got technologies that could prevent all these attacks that we are talking about, but there's always someone that can come and take a picture. That's why, whenever we think cybersecurity, summarizing, we've got a framework. And that is a cybersecurity framework that we propose, where one of these areas to have a look at in cybersecurity is HR security. So who do we actually hire to be our domain admin? Yes? And whenever we are thinking about all the best practices at the very end that are worth having a look at, I would say they are like this. Understanding the context, it's always a key to security. Playing with our own infrastructure, so putting on hackers' shoes and trying to think in a vicious way. I'm always having this fatalistic thinking. I'm thinking, what would be the worst possible attack for that company? And with this last demonstration, think about that. There's a domain admin. He or she comes, steals information from users' profiles, get the passwords for LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on. And the worst possible attack I can imagine is the public shaming. Check this out. This person takes this data, logs onto LinkedIn of the employee, and accuses you of harassment. Bad. I know. I don't like it too. Or says like, oh, you all don't want to work for this company. It's horrible. Horrible like, human conditions. Yes, they are using my time, overusing it, etc. So that is basically a bit of a problem. So this is what we mean by understanding is the key to security. And at the end, prevention. So implementing all these solutions, definitely they minimize the risk. And in cybersecurity, it's all about that. Rising the bar or minimizing the risk. And hopefully, we're going to bring all these bars, all these levels to the point, at the point where we're going to be a little bit too difficult to become a target for a hacker. And this is what I wish you all at the end. Thank you so much. If you would like to grab the tools, etc., we've got a company's blog, no registration, nothing. We really like to share knowledge. Sharing is caring. And I hope to see you around at the conference. Have a fantastic, secure day. Thank you.